Hey everyone, how are we doing? Thanks for coming along. I'm going to try not to bore you all to death. Actually, we're going to talk about the cool stuff today. It was really interesting in the last session I just sat in at. A lot of people voted what we're about to talk about, their top kind of thing, which is AI ops, or hyper automation, service operations. Now, it's no secret that Sapphire, in its previous guise, ITOM Solutions, for those that remember the original name, are ServiceNow partners. I'm going to talk a lot about ServiceNow today, but actually I'm going to talk a lot about capability. So don't get hung up on ServiceNow if you're not ServiceNow users at the moment or you're considering it in the future. I also apologize for the puke green, which is our corporate branding, but it certainly wakes you up and kind of burns your eyeballs out. So who's heard of service operations? A show of hands, there we go. At the back, definitely. I'd be worried if you hadn't heard about it. A lot of people are not quite sure what it is, but it's driving a lot of what our business does today. And anyone that's working in IT, or certainly maybe at an exco board level or a C-suite level, or even just a head of, will recognize these changes, right? They want us to be more resilient as a business. They want us to do more for less without spending as much money, but innovate faster and give our customers a really awesome experience. Those kind of things really work against each other when you don't have automation, you don't have any level of workflow within the organization. Yeah? So I'm building up a base story here of what service operations is. I'm going to tell the woe is us tale of IT, because everyone knows that the stressed IT person is the worst person in the organization, right? These are some of the things, the common threads that we find when we're out talking to our customers or potential customers. All in all, it boils down to the fact that IT is really complicated these days. You've got lots of silos working across lots of different systems. You're being asked to deliver faster response times. If digital platforms are down today, they cost you money, right? That's revenue loss for organizations and bad regulatory fines or scores or NPS scores if you're out in that kind of publicized or platform marketplace. Yeah. So what we're trying to do is promote a model of IT maturity. There are 4 steps, because every good model has 4 steps in it. And I think most people will recognize these steps of maturity when we're talking to service operations, AI ops, and ITOM, right? Those 3 kind of phrases are very interchangeable with each other. The newest phrase is service operations, so that's the one I'm going to stick with. But that is the level above it. Underneath it, we have a lot of automation, a lot of toolkits, and a lot of AI ops and ITOM, right? So reactive, responsive, intelligent, self-healing. Who's at reactive? Something breaks, we fix it. Thank you for being brave and admitting that. All right, who's at responsive? There we go. Who can predict with any kind of intelligence that something's going to break? Very cool. I'll talk to you afterwards. And who can self-heal it when it does break? No, I didn't think so. Right? I think a lot more people are in column 1. You're just a bit shy. It's fine. We'll get there. What it takes is a lot of money to move up that ladder, and it takes a lot of experience to move up that ladder as well. Now, the payback, which I'll demonstrate later in this deck, for moving up towards self-healing, and it's not just a fantasy, right? There are some very good examples of organizations that are right the way, even at stage 5, where stuff never breaks, and if they dream about it breaking, it fixes itself. But it does require time, it does require effort, and it does require money. And you hear buzzwords like MTTR and MTBF and all this kind of stuff out in the industry. But what we're talking about is a strategical plan to implement service operations and capabilities within an organization. And just to demonstrate the point, 90% of people are there. So you're not alone, don't worry about it. I do like this, one of my favorites. I think this might have actually been M as a quote, but I didn't name her on the slide deck. Overtaxed, under-coordinated work is an everyday reality for organizations. People are working really, really, really hard in silos and often against each other. And what we need to do is join those organizations together. We need to use the toolkits that are available to us in a consistent way with automation and workflow to get people working in the same direction together. Yeah? And there's a very realistic way that we can do that. Has anyone heard of the 3-0 strategy? No? 0 physical footprint, you have, of course, you've seen the slide deck before. Right? 0 physical footprint, everything shift left, every CIO's wet dream for the last 10 years, put it all into the cloud, no tin, Although Kylie, I think, made a really good point earlier about some level of consistent tin of stability of platform. 0 outages and 0 incidents. Well, that would be a lovely world to live in. Actually, one organization globally got very, very close to this year, and that was Amazon. I'm not talking about Amazon as in the data centers, because they had quite a few outages. Amazon.co.uk, or .com, whichever, the global store, had 1 major incident last year. They had 50 P3 incidents last year. Yeah? And they have 0 physical footprint. It all runs in AWS tin. That's a world we'd all like to get to, and they run a beast of a service operations platform, full AI ops, as you would expect, all on their own tin, all on their own kind of making. But now these toolkits are available out in the commonplace through platforms such as ServiceNow, Datadog, Dynatrace, AppDynamics. It's not one platform to do this. You require a number of platforms, a number of integrations and workflows behind it. However, don't let anyone tell you, including me, that it's easy and it's going to be a piece of cake and it's not going to upset anyone, because digital transformation is, by its very nature, disruptive within the organization. However, you do see a lot of benefits that come from it. Yeah? The volume of incidents from people typically is up 2x, because everyone's a princess. When we're working from home, everything breaks. We need immediate support. Yeah? Machine-generated noise. I think that slide's actually out of date. I think it's more up 50x, because everything generates an event, everything generates a metric or a data point or a trace or so forth, and overall incident volume is up 20x in most organizations that we speak to. How are you supposed to keep on top of that? How are you supposed to manage it? It's near on impossible. So, what do? Who's heard of the CMDB? Good. That's awesome. The CMDB is at the foundational core of every capability that you need to build your sophisticated AIOps and service operations platform on top of. Yeah, now this is obviously a ServiceNow slide. We co-authored this deck with ServiceNow because we're really working hard with them globally to push the envelope on service operations, and I can talk to you more about that later. What we need to do is build a single source of truth using ServiceNow Discovery for the ServiceNow reps in the room. Yes, I'm representing you. But I like to think that a happy CMDB is a multi-source CMDB. Yeah, so I'm not here to sell you ServiceNow or its discovery package. If you've got any of these toolkits, and even more of them, we could have listed them all day long, bring them into the platform, utilizing the engine within the CMDB and on the ServiceNow platform to bring all of your different attributes to make your complete record. But the golden rule, if you don't care about it, don't put it in. Garbage in, garbage out. I think you said that in your last one, Claire. Right? We evolve this a little bit further. We bring in automation engine to build that full picture. So we have all of these data points sent from all of your tools, but what we're going to do is design your CMDB down to its attribute level and understand where that data point is coming from, where we can automate it so that human beings don't have to put in the wrong data, and then someone at 3 o'clock in the morning is trying to find out what this connects to and what file's installed on it and gets the wrong information. So build a complete picture of that CMDB. Why it's really important, I'm going to touch on, obviously, ITOM and ITSM, because that's how you build service operations, but actually a healthy CMDB built on the CSDM framework, which I'm going to come on to now, supports pretty much every single application on the ServiceNow platform, and really any workflow engine tool worth its salt will sit on top of a well-developed and well-defined CMDB. You can't possibly understand what is impacted at the top layer, the services layer, the capability and offering that you present to your customer, if you don't understand how those things fit together right to the lowest network point. It's just actually impossible. Yeah? So, who's seen this model before? This is the CSDM model. Good. A couple of people. This is what CSDM v4 looks like within ServiceNow land. We see we split it up into a number of definitive areas: design, foundation, sell, consume, and managed technical services. Now, most people exist wholly in actually just here. Maybe not even application services. Some people have configuration items, as they're known, servers, databases, network switches, etc., right? And they connect those things straight to business applications. Maybe they'll put a service on top of it. Some people still just have a list of stuff, a list of servers with no relationships and so forth together. I want to touch on a couple of these items specifically. Make sure I'm on the right slide. Yes, I am. Which are really important, the technical service and the business service, and that defines what our model actually is. These are technical services you can think of as VMware or AWS as a platform that you're building things on top of that support services you offer to your customers. And business services are the actual things you offer to your customer itself, as in an online store, the ability to pay a bill, and so forth, right? I'm going to break this down a little bit more, but again, it's not wasted or duplicated effort. That's where I click that, because you can use these items and that entire CMDB CSDM model across the entire platform when you're looking at ServiceNow. Operations, service owners, service desk, assets, security, GRC, all utilizing the same model, yeah? So it's not a waste of time, it's not a duplicated effort. However, it's also very much like ITIL. You get people that are really fanatical about it, like real guttural passion when they see the CSDM model and they can't step away from it. And then you get people that are actually paralyzed by fear to looking at this model, looking at the model they've got at the moment. It's nowhere in between. How the hell do you get there, right? It's a framework. No one can take ITIL out of a book. You might argue with me on this one, but no one can take ITIL out of a book and put it into your organization because it just won't work. Maybe you're not mature enough, maybe it doesn't quite work for you, so on and so forth, right? So there are stepping stones. This is quite a happy medium where we ignore business capability and business offering. We actually just sit at the business service layer. And this is how you can quite nicely build up that viewpoint of what business services look like in terms of your offering. This is an internal service, so we offer our customers, our internal employees, an HR platform, and we offer them the ability to book holiday or report sickness. They can book a holiday, they can cancel the holiday, and the applications that make that possible are these 4 or more, SAP applications in this instance. There may be just modules. And then we're supporting the technical services on the side between SAP and vCenter because that's where our hosts run. Really simplistic. I promise you I'm getting to the good stuff. Yeah? This forms part of the CMDB value chain. It's utilized by all areas of the business. Now, I'm talking mostly around here, but the business then is able to visualize what those services look like. Your architects, any architects in the room? Enterprise architects? All right, so someone comes along, designs a service, designs a platform, goes live. 3 days later, change request happens, your data's out of date, right? How are you supposed to keep track of that in enterprise architecture? You can't. You can now with this model. Really cool integrations also between the Now platform and things like biz design, so it pushes that data lifetime to you. And customers, you can open this model up to customers if you're providing a service, a technical service out to the world. So if you're, a fintech company, you're providing the best investment banking platform, on your CSM portal, you can report live the status of what's going on with your application, and customers are aware of any outages, degradation, and so forth. Internal, in your organization, it's used by the entire front office, middle office, and back office to manage these services and these platforms that really are so far away from what traditional IT ever was. Traditional IT was like a JVM running on a server that also had a database on it. Now we're talking about Kubernetes clusters running microservices in a cloud. It's completely changed. So we need to understand how these things fit together. This is where we start to get into the cool stuff. So that's the base and the foundation, and hopefully you're seeing that and why. But what we want to do is build that service-aware CMDB. And we go right the way across all of the platforms, all of the cloud technologies. We're unifying the world between operations and service management, because they quite often do that. Especially if you've got DevOps functions that are running, you've got a service desk, I didn't mean to click back. You've got a service desk that's in the organization, struggling, they looked all unhappy with each other, and now they're unified and they're together within service ops. We can bring these worlds together. And if we start bringing these worlds together and we bring in automation, we bring in workflow, then we can really start to drive out change. And here's an example of how we can get those two worlds to work together. So, service management, any change managers in here? Right. Your team, you have pushed the change. Friday, 5 o'clock, new change to the web app, it's gone live, fantastic. All of a sudden, customers are phoning up. What the hell have you just done to my platform? It's not working, no idea. He's already gone home. He's having a nice San Miguel, sat on a beach somewhere, right? The service desk is getting absolutely smashed with calls. It's going into the poor on-call 24/7 operations desk. That could be a SIAM partner, or that could be someone internal. No idea what's going on. We utilize the intelligence in the ServiceNow platform. We can tell that operations management cluster, that person sat at 6 o'clock on a Friday who can't have a beer, exactly what's just happened. The change that was released, where we started to see errors in the application, whether that was with a line of code, a database query, whether that's with infrastructure, traditional, hybrid, cloud-based, whatever that looks like. Yeah, one example of where this can be transformational for your organization. This is the really cool stuff, where we can start to actually get into preventing issues before they impact users. Yeah? So, who's got one or more of those toolkits in their organization? Very good, thank you. Turns quite quickly into shelfware, I found, most of the time. It's really cool. Sales reps come in, do an awesome job, as they would do. Look, it can solve the world for you. Maybe get it on 50% of your servers out there, maybe 10% of your applications, and then dies a horrible death, because actually we're starting to silo people off even more. What if we could take all of the data from all of those platforms and bring all the metric data and the event data into a single place that had automation, had a service management capability, had a decent AI engine in it, and bring that together to understand what actually was going on? We could run smart rules across that data, then to cluster it to understand what root cause analysis could be. We can run heartbeats. We can start to understand what's new. We can use dynamic baselines. Who sets upper thresholds for server monitoring? People still do that. I care about a server that's running at 90% CPU utilization. Why? Let's have a dynamic baseline. Let's understand what the normal performance of these applications and these services at any given day, at any point in the year in its history, and let's report against that. You know, don't worry about it. Obviously, disk space, slightly different. But CPU, RAM, who cares? Paging files, no. Right? We start to get into enterprise automation. And from there, we can give actual insights, which is something is broken. This is the thing that's broken. Here is the data we've got to prove that that's broken. And more importantly, this is the impact based on that services model, which I'll touch on, that is having to your organization. Therefore, we can get ahead of the curve before the problem starts, because we have that level of issue, right? Let's take that a step further. So that's still very reactive. Let's take that a step further into predictive. This is where log files are really good. Hands up if you got one of those. New Relic, Elk, Splunk. Yep, this guy's got everything. We can bring all of those logs into the same platform and utilize the same capability. Now, why would we do that when we've got Splunk or we've got Elk Stack or we've got New Relic that are also very good at it? Well, it's because we can read the log files. We can use the intelligence that we have. We understand how things fit together. And then we can start to look at anomaly deviation. So now I'm looking for things inside an application, inside a digital stack that haven't happened before. And I'm going to use the AI to really understand that this is potentially an issue because these log points are telling me that this is abnormal behavior. So I've got reactive, events are coming from somewhere that's telling me something's broken. And now I've got predictive, preventive from reading log files, and I've got metric data in between to build a time series database to understand normal behavior of that application, of that stack, right? So I'm covering all angles. I'm going to bring it all together in one picture, and feel free to clap at the end. Won't hold it against you, right? So we've built our CMDB with CSDM model. We've categorized our services into essential, don't know why I put trivial in there, and critical. Revenue generating stuff that cannot break. I've got all of my enrichment data. I've built that CMDB. It's really cool. I've got multi-source discovery going in there. I know everything that there is to know about everything. Some people are quite good at doing that. I've got my logs and my events, and I've got my metrics coming in. And they're coming in from these different toolkits, which we've had for ages but haven't maybe utilized. And now we're going to start doing it. This is where people have a car crash moment, and what they do is they just link it via the Service Graph connector, and they create 1 million incidents over the weekend. This man at the front knows exactly what I'm talking about, right? I didn't call you out, but you're right on the spot there, right? Now we take the AI capability that I was just talking to you about. We transform something that looks like that instead, where we have actionable insights and outcomes of an incident of something that is actually broken. Yeah, and we're running all of the AI, all of that clustering, all of that metric anomaly detection, all of the good stuff into your operational processes. So your guy at 6 o'clock on a Friday, after your change manager's there, has pushed something live, has all of the information in front of him to go and fix it. We have a banking customer, a Scottish banking customer actually. They're not here today, so I can talk about them. We put a platform like this in for them, and they were using heavy Dynatrace platform. They were using SolarWinds, a bunch of other kind of homebrew stuff, and it was exactly as I described before. They had outages. It was really well documented. They were all over the news. It was horrific. Massive fines from the regulators and so forth. Right? We put this in, the proudest moment of putting this solution in was we ran a knock for them, so 24/7 help desk. At 3 o'clock in the morning, one of my first line engineers, who I think he'd been with us about six or 7 weeks, had an incident that came from the platform that said mobile banking is literally about to die. Do this. And we'd linked it to knowledge. I'm scratching the surface of what we can do with this platform. He went, he followed the knowledge base, 1 step, log in, 2 step, restart, blah, blah. Prevented the whole thing from dying. 3 o'clock in the morning, first line engineer, 25 grand resource, right? Stopped the whole thing dying. If that had died, had got down, that was Black Friday, Cyber Monday weekend. Eventually, we stopped it going down about 36 times over that period, right? And then we're learning that information, we're chucking that back to the DevOps team to go fix the underlying issues, as opposed to just keep it running. But we can do that now, we have this intelligence, and we start to really build, this is very salesy, predict, prevent, automate, right? We really we'll start to build that enterprise capability. This is an exclusive, by the way. Who's heard of Open Telemetry? Who's heard of Lightstep? It doesn't count. You work for ServiceNow. OTel is it's something that was co-founded by, actually the co-founder Mark of Lightstep. He used to work for Google. This is a joint Google, Amazon, and Microsoft initiative. What Open Telemetry is basically lines of code that you inject either into your infrastructure as code or into your application code stack. And what it does is it gives you really detailed trace route information around how that application is performing. It's a bit APM-y, so it gives you like user route information about how they go through, the queries run, etc. Gives you real detailed information about how the application is performing and its health and life cycle. This is the first view of how we're now onboarding Lightstep and that entire OTel capability into that traditional capability that I just spoke about. So now we only bring events, events, metrics, logs, and alerts. We now bring trace route information. We can now bring metric information from Lightstep too and build that complete visible picture. You know, we work with a very well-known, they're not very popular, so I'm not going to tell you who they are because you might throw things at me, energy firm, right? And their website, where you go on and pay your bill or get a meter reading or tell them you're moving and so on and so forth, is a monolithic microservices-based platform. Literally, it's their entire business. We have service mapped, so we've mapped that in the CMDB, and we've built the monitoring capabilities into that single platform that if someone walks into a data center and drops a spanner, and it affects a business service or a service that's running through that application, we know about it. And I know how many people on platform are being affected live, and I know the exact the exact knock-on effect of capability they're having. AKA, that person is having a degraded response on submitting a meter read. That person can't submit a meter read. And there are 50 of them right now having that issue. That's a metric to feed in whether that's a major incident or not. You know, and you run that across your revenue or business critical applications, all of a sudden you can build a real fast picture of what's going on in your organization. And I'm not going to lie, that took us 3 years to get there. And pretty quickly we can change the script and we can start to get some of this intelligence in. But to get to that level of detail requires time, investment, and an understanding that there is a ton of work to do, including a massive data wave. And you do have to go and retrofit standards into your organization. A lot of developers have a lot of bad habits. Who knows how to play Jenga? I basically need 2 glamorous assistants, and I don't want it to be the people that work for me. So Rob, I'm going to pick on you. If you can come up, please. And one more. Yeah, come on. Let's go. Here we go. We're going to change the rules ever so slightly. All right. What I want you to do is to take out the Jenga blocks, and as you take one out, I just want you to put the used ones here. Don't stack them back on top. And I'm going to keep on talking while you do that. So, round of applause, please, for my glamorous assistants. Thank you. Right. This is probably a very familiar fairy tale for most organizations. Yeah? This is what happens. At 9:44, a platform service owner or someone in DevOps or a customer says, there's a big issue with our platform. We have an issue. We've got an outage. We're unable to utilize. There we go. Good.
That was a short scheme of Jenga.
Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it. How many did we get to? Was it these 3? Okay, you still prove my point. Fine. Then we say that we create an incident, right, straight into your toolkit. And then we have a fire drill. Everyone is running around, trying to figure out what the hell's happened, waking Bob up. Bob's not good before 4 cups of coffee, so we all know how that goes. And they say that there was nothing that we could do to prevent that, and we had no idea it was going to happen. Now, the reason I asked these fine gentlemen to come up and play Jenga is because these represent metrics, alerts, traces, events from different platforms. Now, we only got 3, but we had 3 here that would have told us that at 2 o'clock in the morning, we started to see issues across the platform. Someone's phoning me, helpful. Across the platform, that we could have utilized our AI capability to correlate, group together, determine a root cause, log an incident, kick off a script, remediate, chuck it to someone on my outsourced help desk or my 24/7 help desk, and have a 4-hour window to resolve the issue before it actually occurred. And then this part of the story never happens. Everyone walks in, has a good Friday, and everyone's happy. Now, anyone actually experienced this piece of it though before? Right? Yeah. Kylie actually mentioned this earlier. Kylie is quite weird seeing her. It was like a blast from the past. Like 9 years ago, I worked with her at Thames Water when the first ever evolution of this exact capability we built there, which was quite cool. She mentioned this earlier about having the pyramid of maturity, I guess you'd call it. Who can tell me what 103 means? It's a trick question. Exactly. No one can, right? No one knows. We have no contextualization around it. Now we understand that that's a temperature, 103 degrees temperature. Who's got kids? Hands up. Can you ignore 103 degree temperature? No, because you have a fever. It's too important to ignore. Here's a prescription. That's obviously a metaphor for receiving a metric point into the ServiceNow platform, contextualizing that against the digital application, so understanding where it fits, understanding what the root cause is, maybe serving someone knowledge, and then maybe running a script to go and resolve that. Now, we have a lot of halfway houses. I'm not suggesting that we come in and just, free the T1000s in your organization and let them go and start running stuff. There's halfway points. We call it human automation. Not in the same way you might have heard that before, but we have AI-led automation, so we can suggest things within the toolkit, within the op workspace that maybe you should restart a server. They click a button, it goes and executes the script and restarts it. And that can use Ansible or cloud native scripts or what have you. So there's a maturity ladder, and you can gain buy-in from organizational groups to allow AI to start running across their organization. A lot of people say, Phil, that's really cool, but it takes forever to do it and costs £5 million. 4.5 million, but we can actually get people live pretty quickly. This is a real project plan that we took from one of our customers, 8 months to embed all of the capability that I've just shown you and talked about into the enterprise organization. Obviously, there was a phase 2 and a phase 3, and we're currently working on phase 4 with them, but 8 months to build that enterprise capability, to build the foundation that you can then take your organization forward on. Yeah? So it's wholly achievable. And then just some of the benefits. I don't know if that translates well with the colors, but average, we see 50% reduction in mean time to resolution, MTTR. 9,500 hours a month, right? One of the biggest things I've got, and Rob and I are working on this right now, is how do you prove value? How can I go to my board and say, I want to spend 3 million quid on licenses and a couple of million on PS, yeah? And they're going to say, cool, what's the ROI on it? Well, actually, this is a really good measuring point. We can work out how many incidents you had last week, how many are false positives, the amount of time that was spent on it, what the average rate or blended rate card of that is, what we can avoid. There's a net saving maybe for month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4. Hopefully the idea is it pays for itself. Some of our enterprise customers, we've done 65% reduction in noise 6 weeks into turning the capability on. And we worked out that in the first 3 months, we'd save them net 800,000. That's enterprise. They're a very, very big customer, but these are big numbers. It stacks up very quickly. Anyway, I've yabbered on for long enough, and I know you're all probably very hungry, so thank you for listening. I really appreciate your time.